All right, man. So I'm going to spare your viewers my sunburned nose. It looks like a burnt piece of bacon. I got all sunburned, so
That's
I'm rocking the shades, baby.
all good. Yeah, do it. Go for it.
I just pushed the filter button and it just popped these on real quick.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that'll work. All right. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome to my podcast, Butch Escobaar podcast. I didn't have a name, so I just went with Butch Escobaar podcast. Again, this is a very new podcast for me, and I didn't really come up with a format. And so I just figured I'd start shooting and forge a format through that. So one of the things I wanted to do when I first started a podcast, or actually one of the podcasts I wanted to do, was introduce people that I know to my following, like people that I think are the most interesting people that I know. And I have a pretty good following. I have some pretty rad people that are lovers of arts and entertainment. And again, I'm bringing out some artists and some entertainers and other people. This is Frankie Franco, and he is my favorite artist in the whole wide world. And
Thank you, man.
and to give you guys a background or backdrop of what I'm talking about, this is I think this is my favorite painting that I've ever seen. Period. I'm a huge Cheech and Chong fan.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of your art since I started hanging out at Chacho's. I didn't even know who you were.
Yeah, I know, man.
And my dad bought this for my birthday before I met you. And then we were at a festival or something, and I ran into you. We started talking, and it was right outside my apartment was the festival.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember that? He came upstairs and he autographed it for me. And
nice. When was that, bro? When is that? 2000 what?
2013.
13? Damn.
Yeah, dude.
You know, if you would have asked me about that, I would have said it was like 4 or 5 years ago, dude.
Right.
You know
I know.
That's crazy, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, that was fun, man. That was your pop's place, huh? He had that big living in that skyscraper.
Yeah. He lived in that luxury apartment that had that huge window.
Yeah, that was pimping, man. I could just watch with the whole festival, just walk by from the window, man, from your wall, I guess.
You know, you don't realize what you got until it's gone, and that apartment is one of the things in my life.
Dude, those things are probably worth hella. I mean, they're probably super expensive right now. I'm sure they're expensive back then. I can imagine now.
You know what's crazy, dude? Is I live in a kind of a junky 2-bedroom apartment in Berkeley.
Right.
And I pay $150 more than my dad was paying at the time for that apartment.
Yeah, at the time. Actually, that's like the old days now.
Yeah. It was a rad time though, and I'm glad I got to experience it.
Yeah, man.
I think me and my dad both were like, let's see how the other half lives. And then we both realized this is way too expensive. We better get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but how's your father doing, by the way?
He's doing great. He's going to be one of the people on the podcast that I have.
Really?
Yeah, that's a guy who has an interesting story. He was in Vietnam, and he almost made it to pro ball and all kinds of cool stuff. And he got to
man. Before I met you, I chatted it up with your dad for a long time. That's why it was weird, because like I felt like I had already kind of known your dad, and real quick, just from chatting up with them, we just started clicking too. And that's why when I remembered your dad right away, I was like, yeah, we chatted it up for a while. He's one of my early customers too. That's what I think I was like in my 3rd year of actually being a vendor out there. So it's pretty early.
He was
It's been like 10 years now, dude, on the street vending. I'm doing less of it though now.
Let me ask you something. Were you always an artist? Were you always artistic like this? Or was it something that you stumbled into and was like, oh, I'm not too bad at this?
I had it in me when I was a kid, and when I was 10 years old, man. Here's what happened. I kind of was like known like a gifted little artist as an elementary kid, kindergarten and shit. But and I took some classes and stuff. But my mother passed away when I was 10 years old, man.
Okay.
And I stopped drawing and didn't realize it was because of her. From the time I was 10 till I was 17. But that's when I started to mess up in school and all that too, man. And it wasn't until my senior year when I was like, hey man, I got to do something with myself. You know, I mean, what am I going to do if I could do anything? And then I remembered that I could draw. I knew in my head that I could draw, but I wasn't really doing it, man. And
Right.
it was like my senior year in high school, and I got into comic books, man. I was really into comic books back then. And so that got me into reading, man, and looking up words in the dictionary and shit. Like it kind of woke me up again, you know, around that age, you know, about 17. And then I started drawing and painting again. I realized because it was something about my mother's death, bro. I just stopped doing it. And I just tried to be a cool kid. I used to be like this little nerd kid. And from the time she passed away till I was, you know, I was just trying to be the cool kid. And it wasn't until I took some classes at a junior college, man, that it got good to me, you know?
You just woke up to it again.
Yeah, so I didn't, you know, and I hung around with a lot of graffiti artists, man. Shout out to the Lord's Crew.
Nice.
You know, back in the day, we were the first ones that were actually out there doing it, man. I mean, this was in the 80s, bro. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so this was before we used to have to rack lids, you know, caps and switch them around. We didn't have all the colors that they did. We're like the pioneers of that stuff. But the only reason I hung out with them is because they were the other artists, right? They were like a community of people that were doing similar stuff and appreciated. Even though, I used to do more of the characters. I wasn't into the whole hip hop. I mean, I love hip hop, but I wasn't the whole letter style dude. I was like the character, and then you bust the letters around the characters, you know. And I still hook up with the crew, you know.
Were you said this was out of Modesto?
Yeah, this was in Modesto. I grew up in a little town called Empire, right outside of Modesto, literally across the tracks.
Yeah, I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah, so I grew up there, but so Modesto, man. But you know what I mean. So this was in the 80s, man, mid 80s, late 80s, and early 90s. You know, we're graffiti. That's how I started getting into murals. Now, I used to use spray paint back then because that's the only thing I knew. You know, now I do everything with the brush. But you know,
that's the thing that I always you know, I always wonder about, because I mean, I'm a comic and our mediums do cross over with acting and stuff like that, but as far as performing arts, there's limitations. But I feel with art, you could cross over from brush painting to spray painting.
Yeah.
And was that an easy transition, or was that something that you had to work on?
Well, like, put it this way, like I hadn't graffitied in like a decade, right? And now with all the new caps and stuff that they have, and the colors that you can buy, and it's like, and then because I'm a better painter, I was a better graffiti artist.
Right.
I was a better spray can artist, right? Because I can I can use those, but I have experience in both. But I was able to take my knowledge and apply it to the graffiti part. So I was able to do some cool stuff.
So what do you think made you better? Graffiti art made you a better painter, or painting made you a better graffiti artist? Or
I would say it made me a better spray paint artist. I don't really consider myself a graffiti artist.
Okay.
But I will use spray cans when I have to, or when it calls, or you know, we're fucking around or whatever. But I'm all about trying to, you know, I got a family, I got to make a living.
Sure.
And so I usually pretty much stick to the brush because I get paid more for those. The paintings last longer.
Right.
So, but I have that like that graffiti attitude towards work. Like like when I make a mural, I bust a mural just like you would bust a piece, right? I'm still
sure.
I'm still making a statement, but I'm not doing it through the language of graffiti or hip hop. I'm doing it through my own kind of idiosyncratic way that I've created.
Now, when I met you, or when I first discovered who you were, it was in San Jose, and it was at the old Chachos. And right. I used to go in there, and I love Chachos. It's good food, but I literally would go in there just to stare at your murals.
Thank you, man.
And your paintings. Yeah, how did that come about? How did you end up getting discovered? And was that like the biggest turnover that you had at the time, or were you already cracking off?
That mural kind of put me on the map, sort of say, you know what I mean? I was already doing stuff for him. Like he had another club, George, the owner of Chachos, had a club called Blue Monkey, but it wasn't really my style, you know. That place, that was a spot because what happened was people kept asking me if I was a Chicano artist. Like, oh, do you make Chicano art? And I'll be like, what the fuck's that supposed to mean? You know
Right.
what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, whatever I do is Chicano, right? But I wasn't trying to get pigeonholed, you know? It's like being a Chicano king of comedy or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be like that.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
But I'm down. I'm a human, but I'm still down for like my gente, you know what I mean? I'm still Chicano,
Yeah,
but I
all the
wasn't
way, bro.
focused. I didn't want to get pigeonholed. So many people were hitting me up on that. I was getting paid to do this mural. They let me do whatever I want, right?
Right.
I didn't pay high, but you know, they fed me, they kept me drunk. You know, we partied, we had a good time. But I go, just let me do what I want. So I got tired of that question. So I go, I'm going to paint this painting one time. And anybody wants to see it, call me out on my Chicano-ness. They can go look at that. I don't got to go prove myself 1,000 times, right?
Right.
So I went to the Chicano Studies Library up at the MLK Library in downtown San Jose. It was fairly new at the time.
Right.
And across the street for the new Chachos, kind of, actually.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, that library is huge. It is
yeah,
crazy huge.
they have a whole level just to Chicano Studies, a whole floor.
Amazing.
So I hung out there. I just hung out there for like a weekend, you know what I mean? Because this is kind of like internet was there, but that wasn't the best place to do your research, you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of stuff here. So I went into I think this was 2004, man, 2003, you know? Went in there and I just started like absorbing everything, going through all the books. And, you know, I'd already had a little bit of a background in, you know, as far as just being a Chicano. So I speak Spanish. So, you know, I was able to understand a lot where a lot of this was coming from. But I kept seeing images, works by Frida Kahlo and this Day of the Dead thing. And I didn't get raised around Day of the Dead stuff. You know what I mean? That wasn't part of our culture. It is now. I celebrate it now because I'm part of it. I've adopted it, I guess.
Well, it's a little bit. I feel also because I didn't either. I didn't even know what that was until I saw it in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's a little bit part of more mainstream culture for us, which is great. I love that.
Yeah, and so at the time it was Posada. There was this artist named Posada from Mexico, Jose Guadalupe Posada, who did these little woodcuts, and he was selling for a penny. They were called pennies or something like that. The magazine, they were just like handmade woodcuts, bro, they'd carve out. And he did all these little muerto characters. It's kind of where this whole language of kind of muerto art stems from this guy.
Oh.
He was actually Diego Rivera, the Mexican muralist. That was actually his teacher when he was a kid.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And he's actually one of his paintings. So I kept seeing his work. So that mural was kind of it wasn't a bite, but it was like a homage, because I could also call it Posada's Revenge, right? So I took this little woodcut that he did. It was like, this big, you know what I mean, black and white, and really cartoony. And I try to make something a little bit more realistic with. Actually, I got a copy of it hung up right here. Let me see if I can flip this around.
Sure.
And see if we can. I can show you what we're talking about. Okay, that one up there.
That's the wood carving.
Well, no. This is actually a print of that mural that I made.
Okay. Oh, there's the mural that you made. That's the one in Chacho's.
Exactly. That's the one.
Yeah, that is amazing. I love that mural, man. I could stare at that thing for hours.
Dude, there was a place that went above and to the right. I mean, the originals it doesn't exist anymore, but the original was,
How does that make you feel? Because I remember when Chacho's, the original Chacho's, had shut down.
Yeah.
And all your stuff was basically entombed in there, and it stayed there for a long time. That Chacho's stayed there for as long as I lived in San Jose, and I'm assuming it's gone now. But how does it make you feel to have that? I mean, those art pieces were beautiful, but they were on the wall. Like, how does it feel to not have those exist anymore?
All right, so a couple things. It sucks. People have asked me this question before. But you know what, dude? I sucked at the time, man. Compared to, I was embarrassed of my own work at that time.
Really?
So that's one thing. I mean, everybody else loved it, but me personally, the standard that I had for myself, it was below. But I got to learn so much, man, doing that, and it brought me a lot of attention and popularity as an artist. I mean, I started basically being able to make a living as an artist.
So no matter what, it was worth it.
What's that? Oh yeah, it was all worth it. But the thing is, it's like. Did you see Michael Jackson do his moonwalk right back in the 80s, right?
Oh yeah,
right. And it was like, I don't know if you watched that when you were a kid, right, on Motown, whatever. And Michael Jackson wanted to spin. He tells you how he wanted to spin 5 times, or slide. He wanted to do. but he never he wasn't able to pull it off in '82. But then, like, you look at him in the '90s, and he's just sliding all over the place
and spinning.
He mastered it, right?
Yeah.
So we assumed that show, the 1982 thing, was a perfect dance. It wasn't. There's all kinds of flaws if you look back at it compared to how perfect he got later, right?
Right.
It's that same kind of thing for me, bro. Like, it's giving me space to get good and to practice and
That's interesting though, because like I feel like comics, you know, for me as a comedian, you know, like I remember having shows where people would go, I remember this show and it was fucking awesome and you were rad. Or like I remember like when people would come up after a show and tell me I was really good or you were the better comic or whatever. Right. And I go look back at the tape and it is garbage to me. And
because all we, as artists, I feel like all we look at is the bad, right? Like we forget about the good parts that we did, right? Because we're so focused on our craft. And it's like when I make a painting too, sometimes I don't look at it for a long time. Like I hate it. And then I'll come back to it and I'm like, because I've forgotten about, because I'm only looking at what I need to fix and make better, right? That's all I see. But once the job is done and I walk away and I leave, all I see is the good stuff.
Right.
So I get to, and also as far as like your friends who saw you in the show, it's like the good, they remember the good stuff, man. And sometimes the memory of something is better than the actual reality too, right?
Right.
So that's how I'm hoping these paintings that don't exist.
Do you feel like, though, the fact that you focus on the negative, looking back, sometimes makes you a better artist?
Yeah.
That if you were only satisfied with what you did, you would just be like, I'm good.
Yeah, you'd be stagnant, dude. You would never grow. And for me, dude, I've grown in leaps and bounds. That's one thing for sure that I know. Like, I don't care, like, financially or how famous or whatever the situation gets, as long as I'm practicing my hand all the time, it's like I know that I still have it. You know what I mean? That it's there, the magic is there. Because I'm getting better. It's like a spiritual practice. Right.
Do you still beat yourself up over current stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. I'm never satisfied with, but I feel like you have to be that way as an artist.
I do too. But looking at you from the outside, I mean, I look at all your paintings. You know, I follow you on Instagram and everything, and every piece is flawless. You know, everything. And I know that because I was an artist myself, I know that I look at myself, and if I have a really good set, like I'll come off stage even now, and I'll be at the punchline, and I'll completely smash it according to other people. Right. But when I get off stage, and if my girlfriend's there or my friends are standing by, and they're like, "Man, that was amazing." In my mind, I'm like, dude, really? Because I fucking hated it. I hated myself on stage, or I didn't like this, or there's so many things I could have corrected.
Yeah, because you're shooting for an ideal, right?
Right.
And so am I, right? I the guys that I'm comparing myself to are fucking like geniuses. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to, and that's also what will separate you from your peers. Like I asked myself that one time. I have a lot of artists that are good. I have a lot of friends that are dope. A lot of friends that, same age or whatever. A lot of those, but what separates me from those guys is I have a what do you call it? I have a higher standards, bro. You know what I mean? Right. And it's a two-edged sword because that's going to make you good, but it's going to also drive you crazy because you're going to be always trying to get better. You know what I mean? Because you're never going to be satisfied. And the day you become satisfied is the day that you fall off, right? Or you stop growing, you stop evolving. Right, so it's like this. You have to fall in love with the process of it and doing it, and being up like you were. So you have to be up on the mic. The more you do it, the better you're going to get. Right.
Right.
Even these podcasts, dude. I'm like a better interviewer now because I've done a lot of podcasts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, everything takes practice. Yeah. I have a friend right now who was up until like about a month ago struggling. He makes great videos. He makes these great viral videos. Right. Every time he puts one out, he gets about 30,000. Wow. At least 30,000 views.
Wow.
And one of the things is that I keep trying to tell him, and other people keep trying to tell him, was like, dude, you got to keep putting them out. And because he wasn't putting them out on a weekly basis, he was just putting them out whenever he could. He had one that he really liked, and I know he was working every day and he was filming every day. But he was like, no, that one sucked. I didn't want to put that one up. And I even got to see a couple of them because I was in them. And I was like, "What's up? You putting that video up?" He goes, "No, it was terrible, man." You know, and at some point, me and him both realized, because I'm also a budding videographer or person who puts up videos. Just like comedy, I had to go up and suck and be bad and do open mic after open mic until I got better. And you know, and it was literally like, and I always tell people like comedy, I feel like art in general is like golf. And I don't like golf. I'm not a big golfing fan, but I remember because my dad golfed, he would say the only way to get better at golfing is to go out and play, not just hit the range, not just practice hitting the balls. You have to go and get on a course and play the game itself over and over. And I feel like art is just that. You can't be a great painter unless you actually start putting paint to the canvas.
Yeah, miles and miles and miles of canvas too, bro.
Miles of canvas. Do you
before you become a painter, you know? And that goes for me too. I can tell you this. I'm barely seeing myself as a painter. Let's say that was 15 years ago when I did those. Let's just say a little bit more. And what do you call it? I wasn't a painter back then. I was learning how to be a painter back then.
Yeah.
You know, today I see myself as a master painter. And I don't. I mean, people tell me that also. It's not
I would not. But I wouldn't get that for any.
I feel it inside me. You know what I mean? It's not even about saying it. It's about doing it. You know what I mean? And so I can see, and this is me being highly critical of myself. I can call myself that, know that. I have respect amongst master painters. You know what I'm saying? So those are my peers. Even though I'm not like famous or you know what I mean, that kind of thing, or where it should be at or whatever. I'm still a badass painter. You know
I feel you on that. And I remember being a younger comedian thinking like only the best are famous and known people. And
some connections too. Come
on. But I've reached.
If we were down south, you and I bet you our careers would be in better places.
I agree with you, and my circumstances have kept me where I'm at.
No, but I love it. I love Northern
California. Love it. But I'm not chasing fame and fortune anymore because one of the things that I realized too was like I don't know what the equivalent of a master painter is to a comedian, but I feel that I am that. I feel that I'm a good joke writer. I feel that I'm a great performer.
Yeah, I think you're dope, dude. You're badass, bro.
Thank you.
If you get paid to do what you do, bro, that right there already that makes you a professional right there.
Absolutely. Now, what was your you know, when you were growing up, and obviously, like you said, you had stopped at some point, you know, doing art and drawing and stuff. Did you have any inspiration, or did it just come out of your head once you started doing it again?
Oh, no. So this is funny, man. So like names like Picasso, you know, Leonardo da Vinci, like I didn't even know who the hell those people were until I was already 19, 20 years old, bro. You know what I mean? Like those names didn't even mean anything to me. And it wasn't until I was old. So I fell in love with it. It's kind of cool, though, because I fell in love with art late, is that I became like a little kid about it at a good time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It wasn't just like something like cliche or something I had heard. It was new and exciting for me. I also started to look at, because I was taking classes, I started going to looking at books, right? So I started looking at artists like Michelangelo and everybody, bro. The whole gambit, bro. I would just go hang out in libraries. Right. And just go find books and try to I wanted to know who every single artist was. So for me, that was I don't know, what was your question again? I forgot. But that was really
who inspired you?
Okay, so and then I was big on Salvador Dali at the time. I think a lot of young people are, because he's kind of like a bridge between like funky art, skateboard kind of shit, like you know what I mean, like lowbrow to high art. He's kind of like a bridge between those.
Absolutely, I agree with you on that.
I think that's why he's dope. As far as like for young people, even now, I still think he's dope.
Well, yeah, I think he had the transition of like classical art.
Yeah.
And he also had like surrealism. Surrealism. Yeah. And that's the thing is like surrealism to me is always timeless in the eyes of the culture of the counterculture, you know, like because it is not what is real and it is not what is here, and so you're able to look at it at all points at any time in the world and go, that is absolutely different, and,
Yeah.
and it's radical at the same time.
Yeah.
And
I also had a professor, man. There was like one oil painter that I knew who was a professor at the junior college. His name was Dr. Richard Saros. Now he kind of took me under his wing too when I was in my early 20s. We didn't like each other at first, and then we ended up becoming hella cool. He became like a father figure for me. But he was the only dude that I knew that could paint, and he taught himself how to paint because he was an art historian. He's got his PhD in art history.
okay,
And he had studied the masters, and so he was like he had learned their techniques through through his studies of art history and studying Renaissance masters.
now what
So
about
he
you? Oh, go
he
ahead.
taught me so he was my first kind of instructor as far as like oil painting was concerned,
What
on that classical level, you know. But he
what
was self-taught. He was self-taught. He wasn't like a, you know, like a.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you. What about you? Did you? I know you said you went to school, but did you learn technique, or did you just learn theory, or did you learn both and
Okay.
then
Okay.
apply
So
it?
so I was again. I came out of kind of comic book graffiti kind of stuff, right? Animation kind of. I was kind of in that realm. That's what kind of got me started and interested in, and then then I started going to the school because I wanted to get better. And the teachers were like, dude, you don't want to do this comic book stuff. You need to do this. You're too good to be doing this kind of stuff. You need to get into fine art, which you can just do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of thing. And so that was important. That was key right there. But what was your question? I'm sorry, brother.
No, it's all good. Dude, I smoke weed, so I totally feel you.
I smoked one up before I got it.
Yeah, man.
So.
Me too, bro. No, I was just I was asking what basically what I was asking is what you took out of school when you went to school.
Oh, okay. So, dude, I started entering college. I ended up getting under this teacher's wing. He invited me. He was working on his doctorate and to get his PhD. So he needed an assistant to go with him to Europe, dude. And I had just finished all his art history classes. When I went to JC, dude, school got good to me. High school, I fucking hated. I was like a fifth-year super student, dude. I barely graduated.
Yeah, I fucking hated high school.
But when I got to junior college or community college or whatever, dude, it got good to me. Like I started to become that nerd part of me that before my mother had passed away had woken up. And I realized that I was bright, you know what I mean? And I was like smarter than most of those little fuckers. And so I ended up going with them to Europe. He put me and we went to 10 different countries, 27 cities,
Wow.
dude, we looked at everything. So I was exposed to all the history, European, from ancient, Paleolithic stuff all the way to like today, you know what I mean? Like the latest art that there is from a doctor. So I was his assistant. So then from there, I got a full ride to, I applied to all these schools. You got to apply to all these schools. I applied to UCLA, UC Berkeley, Santa Barbara. Dude, and I was like 26 already. I was like trying to go to my local Stanislaus State.
Yeah, you're an old man at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And I got a full ride to Berkeley, man. And so there is where I got theory. Because they don't teach you how to draw and paint at Berkeley. But what was cool about Berkeley, at least when I was there, is that they were still they were teaching new shit theory and new media, but you could still take a drawing class or a painting class. Except they didn't really teach you. It was just kind of go find yourself. Here's a big piece of paper, some charcoal,
Right.
Go find yourself. It was more of that kind of thing, but there was a lot of soul searching. Then right after that, I went to the New York Academy of Art. I felt like I was old, so I got out of there as fast as I could. I got a minor in philosophy, and it took me 2 years because I'd already done 2 years of college, junior college. 2 years, then I jumped to New York Academy of Art, and they had this 1 year accelerated program where we were guinea pigs. And it was straight 17th century academic painting, dude, from French academic painting. So I got the whole, dude, we were even opening, I went to Oxford, we cut open cadavers, and we were cutting them open and drawing from dead bodies and stuff. I studied there for 2 months at Oxford.
Did you just say cadavers?
Cadavers.
You guys were like, so you guys were not just like giving pictures of shit and then made to paint it. You guys actually cracked open a dead body and painted it.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
Wow.
I got a whole series of drawings based off of those, man.
That's the other thing. Do you keep all that stuff that you've...
Yeah, I got a file cabinet, man, full of just like old stuff. I use a lot. It's all organized now. I just have that shit all organized. But I show, I have, I used to teach, and I'm always teaching, and I'm always open to that. So I got files of even my students' work, my stuff, old stuff I use for examples and stuff. So yeah, I got all those crazy ass drawings of dead people, man. It's a trip,
Wow.
man, because it's very psychological. I mean, you're sitting there as a young person, working on your career next to a dead person, contemplating like, this is what I'm going to be too, one of these fucking days.
Sure.
But a lot of that, see, what's cool about that is a lot of that filtered into my work later with the Dia de los Muertos shit, because I was also there in New York going to school when 9/11 hit. I was 8
Yep.
blocks from there. Well, so
Oh
that shit
wow.
with my head, bro, I could see people jumping off. I could tell if it was a guy or a girl. It was just death, bro. That's for a whole year when I was in New York. That's what I was studying, drawing dead people. And it fucked with my psychology, dude. Like I became like what do you call it? The philosophers call it an existential crisis.
Yes.
The concept of death kicked in, bro. Like I'm gonna die. Shit, it's gonna happen to me too. Shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it kind of put some fear in me. And why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we doing it? We're gonna die. Shit, you know what I mean? It's gonna happen. It can happen right now. And that also part of that Day of the Dead stuff. It was me going back to my culture, but it was also very cathartic and healing for me because it helped me process a lot of this shit. You know what I mean? And I realized, man, you can't be thinking about it, death all the fucking time, because you're gonna get depressed, man. You're not supposed to be. But in kind of the way, we're already dead. We're gonna be dead longer than we are alive. In the
We're
grand
dying
scheme.
right now as we speak.
Right. In the grand scheme of things. So if you cut off your arm is dead, right? So you're in a way your body can animate this thing. Man. That's kind of what I realized too. You got these bodies in front of you who are, they're all there, but they don't work. Like something was missing,
Sure.
And so I realized that, we have to focus on what's good in life, right? Being alive, what's important in this lifetime, and also hitting your goals, man. Like life is short, man. So for me, it kind of lit a fire under my ass, and not only that, but having children as well. So we got a short amount of time here. We got to do the best we can with it. What's important, man? So all these things started to kind of play. I had a really interesting evolution of how I became an artist and what kind of artwork I made, because it wasn't just my education, even though I had a really awesome, one of the best educations you can possibly get in the world. But it was also my real life shit was all mixed up in it at the same time. And it was a complete opposite from someone who normally would get this college experience, right? And get to go and do those kind of things. Go to Oxford University, UC Berkeley, travel all over Europe and go and see, and still be a real Chicano vato, you know what I mean? At the same, not a homie,
Yeah.
but still down for my shit, still knowing where I come from.
Do you find that people are surprised when they find out what your level of education is?
Fuck yeah, they don't even want to fucking shit, man. I'll get arrested right now if I go out fucking out.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I swear to God, I will. And you know what I mean? So, and I tell this shit to people, man. Look, dude, dude, I don't like saying this, but I don't want it to come back and bite me ass. I think I've had over 12 felonies, dude, that I've had to go to court over.
Yeah.
You know how many are on my record? 0.
Yeah.
Do you know why? And I'm poor. I don't have no fucking lawyers or shit like that. You know why I'm for 0? Because I was innocent, bro. And that's why I went to jail, because I was standing up for my rights. And you can't come here without a warrant. Oh, what motherfucker? Bam, boom, boom, boom. Here's, you know what I mean? Take these charges and that charge. You're going to jail. Because they think I'm a stupid Mexican and wasn't going to go do something about it.
Sure.
Just think about that. I'm not a drug dealer, dude. I don't sell drugs, dude. I'm not a criminal. I've never done anything. Good guy. But yet the police, especially San Jose, they've been trying to lock me up for how, like, why? Why?
What were they trying to charge you with?
Oh, assaulting them when I got fucking sprayed in the mouth with mace, you know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Just hanging out, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just, you know what I mean? Fucking.
How long were you in San Jose? At what age did you come into San Jose?
All right when I graduated, man, from the New York Academy of Art, I was 30 years old. And
Okay.
I spent my 30s in San Jose. My dirty 30s.
Your dirty 30s. Yeah, man.
In San Jose.
So now going back to, because like I feel you on the I don't want to be pigeonholed. I remember going back into comedy, and I remember going into comedy and thinking, I am not going to pigeonhole myself. I grew up with the classic Chicano mother, and my father was not the classic Chicano father. He was a little bit more unorthodox, but he was, but I did grow up around Chicanos, and I easily could have used that as my comedy. And the only comic that I did know about was George Lopez and Paul Rodriguez. But
George Lopez has that shit down. He's got that corner angle, that angle to the
done with it. That's how I felt. I didn't want to just do that because I was so inspired by other things in the world.
Yeah.
But when I got into comedy, it's weird how I drifted into what we call it the Beaner circuit, but
Right.
I ended up drifting into that by accident.
I think I'm down with the beater circuit too, bro. I mean, I'm in there
I
too.
think you know a lot of my boys, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure you do. They're great admirers of your art. Um, but I would say that when I look at your art, if I didn't know you and someone were to say that's Chicano art, I would definitely agree with that.
Right.
So, I mean, how did you end up not being?
Becoming a Chicano artist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, where did you go? Because for me, it was like, oh,
Okay.
dude, I resonate with these dudes, and I am a Chicano comic, but I
Yeah.
don't do like Chicano
Well,
comedy.
well, it's for me. It's pretty easy. Like, okay, so then that's good question too, because it kind of continues the story. Going back to that mural that I did, that Chicano mural for Chachos, and I did after graduating, maybe like 4 years, and it was really healing for me through all that shit I was going through. You know what I mean, about death. I kind of got over it. You know what I mean? I healed myself in a way.
Right.
So, anyways, so people kept asking me, like, they got more business because of the murals. Just like you said, you would come in. People tell me this is what you said all the time. They go to Chachos to check out like the cultural experience, right? They go to see
Yeah,
how
dude, that's what I would. Oh, I mean, they're good food. They're not.
yeah,
They're not.
it's
I'm
food.
sorry.
It's
Shout out
food.
to Chachos. They're great
It's
food.
food. They got good drinks. They got
Yeah.
great drinks, and
The
it's
bar is
food.
amazing.
And it's food.
Right.
It's not
But
bad. It's
my
food.
mom's is better.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would go in there literally just to stare at that mural mostly.
Yeah. So even the owner says that Chachos is not about the food. It's an experience. It's a cultural experience. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so it works. So yeah, so people were going. People wanted to have their quinceañera parties there. They wanted to do their thing there just so they could take pictures by the mural.
Yeah.
So business increased for them. That's what I try to tell these restaurant owners, man. I go, dude, if you guys want to be cheap, a lot of them are, they don't got the money to be paying for expensive murals, a lot of them. And I go, it'll bring you business. Trust me. If people want that culture, that handmade thing, because your food, you're representing handmade artisan food. Well, why don't you have some artisans on the wall as well? So I think that's a part of it.
Well,
Yeah.
when I go to the new one and your art's there,
Right.
now I haven't been in a while because I don't live in San Jose anymore. But when I do get a chance, I meet up with a good friend of mine, and we like to both eat at Chacho's. It's funny because I feel like, oh, this is my friend's art.
Yeah.
Like I feel now it's like I'm at home because I'm with my friend.
No, dude, I'm kind of, I feel you on that one. Well, just because also cool thing about Chacho's is, the owners own clubs, different bars, like that. So there's a community, man, of people. There's a network of friends and homies right there, and family,
Right.
basically. They're kind of I always tell George, your family, the Sanchez's, they're like a pillar in the community because so many people are affiliated and associated that we've come together because of your establishments. You know what I mean? That
That's so true.
we become like family and friends in real ways. You know what I mean? That you're hanging out with the same people for 12, 15 years.
Right.
Grew up with these people. And it's all because we're eating and hanging out at the same places.
That is,
So
you know what? That is interesting that you say that because, like, my friend that I meet up with, and I'm a comic, and I feel like I'm one of the only professional comedians, or I only have of a handful of professional comedians that come out of San Jose.
Yeah.
And probably me being on the lower end, but I meet up with. I think he's the largest, or probably the richest, like broker in the county, and we both meet up there. And it's interesting that you just said that because I have seen other artists that I know meet up there. And
it's just the vibe, dude, right?
Yeah, and I think that it is the vibe. And honestly, man, I'm glad that George created that. But when I walk in there, I see Chacho's, of course, and I see George every once in a while. I've met him a couple times.
Yeah.
But I go, this is Frankie Franco. You know what I mean? I'm in the den of I'm like they got the Cheech and Chong thing up there, and they got the wall. And I love the wrestling stuff too. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna do some more too now that so he actually put me on his damn payroll because they got the PPP loans, and they got to basically pay people.
Right.
And if they don't spend it, they got to pay it back or something like that. So they don't really get the money, but they're not making enough business right now to hire us.
Sure.
So put it on his payroll, so I'm doing a whole bunch of artwork right now.
Oh, that's amazing! I can't wait.
Yeah, man. I was like, put me on the fucking shoot. I'll work for you. You owe me money anyways. So
Now,
yeah,
are you only doing Chicano style art, or do you still work
no,
on
I'll
other?
still do. I try to avoid it as much as I can, but it's always but it's always going to be there. It's always going to be a part of who I am,
Right.
and I accepted it, man, and I appreciate. And I'm doing it in a way. I mean, I feel like I'm not being stereotypical. I feel like I'm not being. I feel like I'm having fun with it and doing something new with it. So I feel like it's. I like it now. And you know what, dude? Everybody does that. You look at like there's no such thing as like Western art. That's basically white art, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like another white portrait, right? And that's their culture. That's their thing. It's not even you know what I mean? So if I try to go paint like some European painting, I'm painting white culture. It's their culture, right?
Right.
And all the great artists, they always pull from what's who they are, what's inside them. Those are the real artists. Their culture. They just happen to be white. We call it Western art. But
Sure.
you look at any painters, man. Iranian, Persian painters. They paint Persian shit, and they get supported by the Persian people. You look at a lot of African American painters. They paint African American
Yeah.
themes, and people love them.
Well, and I think that's the thing with art is that it's what resonates with you. You know, like
yeah, it's your idiosyncratic shit. It's the shit who makes it's your roots, bro. It's
sure.
and if you're not pulling from that, then you're stupid. You know what I mean? So
I'm constantly surrounded by
it's your ancestors too, bro. You're pulling from all that stuff, bro.
right, and that's the thing is that I'm constantly like I'm surrounded by America. Like I am, like I
You're
am
American. I'm
yeah,
American.
yeah. But I mean, like I don't want to. I'm surrounded by white people all the time, right? And
Right.
I love white people, so I'm not one of those people who I love white people. My girlfriend's white. Her kids are white. Her family's white. They're amazing people.
I love white people.
But the bit of culture that I do have left in this world is from my mom and my dad and
Sure.
and members of my family, and I'll get to see. And when I see your art, or when I see Chicano art, that's the thing. And I think that's why I would go sit in the restaurant, because it would just automatically bring me back to that smell of beans and hearing, and even though it's in a Mexican restaurant,
hey, my work smells like frijoles. Huh?
but I could hear my grandmother making food. I could hear Mexican music in the background.
Right.
I could hear the freeway next to her house.
Chachos will get DJs in there. They'll play like oldies, and that's one of the things that I like about them too. They'll play like that San Jose shit. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
They play Chicano music, and they'll throw in some Vicente Fernandez, and
right.
You know what I mean? So it's very hybrid. And he said it. He goes, my restaurant is not a Mexican restaurant. He goes, it's a hybrid, and my work is very much the same. I'm a hybrid of a lot of things. I'm an Mexican American. I'm a hybrid of those two.
That is great.
And you know, back to when we were talking about the mural making. When we were making these, when I was painting those murals, people were asking me, okay, can you give me one of these? Can you make me? They were looking at the mural and commissioned me. Can you make me that section? Because there's so much details in that, right? Can you? Next, you know, and I was all over the place because I had this Berkeley training from conceptual to like academic, so the whole spectrum of art I loved. I was kind of not really knowing where I was at, you know what I mean? Or I loved finding my way, right? And when I started doing when I started getting these different commissions, all of a sudden I had a body of work, right? That was kind of Day of the Dead related. And this is before anybody was doing it. Nobody was doing this shit, bro. Maybe me and maybe two other people in the world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And but it only took a few years for it to get super popular after that. Now it's played out. I try not to do any. I still do day-to-day stuff here and there just to keep the fans appeased. Right. But I try to work on other things that are not so. I've kind of already searched that ground already, you know.
What about your grind? You know that I mean, I'm not saying you're not out of your grind. You know, I mean, but you are obviously now making money, and you're obviously sought after a little bit. But tell me about the years that you just were out there at festivals, baking under the sun, and just talking to people who are just jerking you off, and then walking away, and like having to get your name out there to start with. What were those times like? Because sometimes I don't think people see that in artists. I think
I call it the Francisco Franco studio street team out there, bro.
Nice.
It's the same thing as like those 94.9 motherfuckers out there. Well, you know what I mean? Fucking with their bands and shit. You know what I mean? They're out there too.
Totally.
Chuy Gomez, you know, we hang out with. You know, he's out. You know what I mean? Even like State Farm Insurance is out there promoting. And I tell artists, like for me, one of the one of the monikers that I'm trying to create, right? I call myself the people's painter because I am, dude. I was out there. I'm still out there on the streets with my face out there, talking to people, talking to thousands of people, dude. Still, you know what I mean? And I'm paid to be out there. And yeah, I'm making some money. Sometimes I make a lot. Sometimes I make a little. Sometimes I break even. Hardly. I mean, that's on the. I try to make money. But either way, it's all good because I'm out there. Hey, I'm Francisco Franco, and I'm getting jobs out there. So I'm getting commissions. I'm getting opportunities. I'm getting doors open. I mean, it's the same reason why these real estate companies put up a booth at these events. You know what I mean?
Would you say that even though sometimes you're up there and you're not making money, it's still worth being out there because of
it's always all good, dude. Like I give this one example. I did this one festival that sucked, dude, and I always make money at these things. And this one year, it was the worst. It was in Los Altos, and dude, I think I just broke even barely. You know what I mean? And I was like the whole weekend, but still, you're not really breaking even because you spent the whole weekend out there, you know. And it sucked, man. And I got this commission. Maybe 6 months later, some guy came and he wanted this job, and it was an $8,000 gig, bro, for this big portrait that I did of his sister who passed away of cancer. And big giant painting. And I asked him finally, I go, hey, how did you find me? He was an Indian guy. And he owns some corporation out here somewhere out here in the Bay. And I met you at Los Altos. So I go, we had a conversation. I don't remember talking to the dude. Kind of, you know what I mean? But dude, if I wasn't there spending a couple $100 to be there, I wouldn't have gotten this $8,000 gig.
That is
you know what I'm saying?
That is
so you know what I mean? So
right. That is, to me, that's a great example because like one of the things that I hope to get out of this podcast is having younger people or people who are looking to be inspired or people who are in art themselves and are moving along. It's funny because I'll talk to people sometimes and even comics who are in the business think that I'm constantly making money, and there's shows where I just show up because I know it's going to be a great crowd,
Hey, dude. $15, $50, fucking
dude. Sometimes I make zero money, bro. Sometimes I used to drive. One of the stories that I try to tell younger people, younger comics, is like I used to drive to. I performed with Joey Diaz, and a bunch.
I love Joey Diaz. Dude.
I was requested by him when he would come out here. And I got to know him when I was in LA because I would drive out to LA.
Yeah.
And I would hook up with my boy George Perez. Shout out to George Perez.
Yeah, he's dope. That motherfucker works too, bro. He's got a regular.
Hey, George Perez is one of the hardest working comics in the business.
Dude, he's like a mover and shit.
He's a mover, and
then does his comedy on the fucking when he went on in between all that shit.
And one of the things he told me was because I remember one night I'm sitting in the green room. Now I wasn't a fan of comedy when I first started, and I thought it was a ridiculous art form that people would go tell their problems to the world and get paid for it. And so, but I remember watching Joey Diaz when I was younger and thinking how amazing he was, and having the chance to just meet him was rad. And then I would see him over and over again while I was working out there with George Perez. Right. And one night, he was sitting across from me in the green room, and I know not to fuck with celebrities or try to chop it up.
Yeah.
He's looking over at me and he's like, Butch Escobaar, how you doing, cocksucker? And I was like, oh fuck, dude. Like, dude, Joey Diaz knows my fucking name. And I talked to George Perez about it later, and I said, dude, fucking Joey knows who I am. He goes, yeah, he asked me about you because he was like, I seen this motherfucker, this cocksucker in San Jose, and he's always up here in LA all the time. What are you paying this guy to come up here? And fucking George goes, I'm not paying him anything. He drives up here. He even gets his own hotel if he has nowhere to stay, and he does the shows for free. And I remember years later hanging out with Joey, and every time he'd come around, he would request me to work with him. Yeah. And I go, why you fuck with me, bro? You know why? Like, man, like you're this big deal now, dude. Like, he's so big now, he has to fuck with even bigger deals. So, which is why I don't work with him.
Right. Yeah, he's on Netflix and shit.
Yeah, but he was like, he goes, because you're a fucking soldier. And I remember that time he came up and he told the same story to me that George told me. And I was like, dude, that was the key. I didn't know I was hustling, bro. I was just fucking getting up just to get up.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're doing more than one thing. That's what people don't understand. Just got to show up and be there all the time. You're practicing for one, right?
Right.
But you're also doing a lot of other things. You might make a little money. You're gonna meet. You're gonna network. You're putting your face out there. There's nothing that'll beat that. Even this podcast. That's why I'm on here, bro, right now with you. I mean, because
Right.
I love talking to you for one.
For sure.
But I mean, we have to do this, man. It's like a fucking cricket that just keeps making that little fucking sound. You know why their crickets chirp, right? They're trying to get some pussy.
Yeah.
And they're just chirping and chirping and chirping and chirping and chirping and chirping. And the motherfucker who chirps the most is going to get the pussy or whatever he's after, right?
You're going to get that cricket pussy.
We just got to get it out there. And it's going to work. Eventually, something's going to happen. You know what I mean? But you got to keep, it's like producing media, right? You got to have content. Right? It's the same concept, man. The power, me with my prints, bro. I'm just putting my prints out there. A lot of times I give them away. You know, I throw them out. I just want them in your place. Is the more I'm out there, the more
that's amazing. That's an amazing attitude because I had that attitude for a long time and then I lost it. Because I started to make good money and I was going to other countries and I started to focus on my fame and fortune. And so I was turning down opportunities because they just weren't paying enough.
Yeah, I do everything, dude. I do everything.
Yeah, and now I do everything again.
I mean, it's got to really be pretty sorry for me to say no to you.
Right.
But I just try to do it. And it's tiring, dude, because I'm just, a lot of this shit's not worth me doing money-wise, but I just keep going at it because I believe in that, bro.
You got to keep putting yourself out there. You got to keep putting yourself out there.
You just got to be active all the time, man. So I force myself to do that and become even like podcasts. I mean, we're doing our own. We got this one called Let's Be Frank, which I got to get you. We got to get you on there.
I am down. I am totally down.
And so, just to do it again, man, just to fucking. I don't like doing them sometimes, man, because I get a little nervous. I got to cut out a day. It's just like people are gonna look at me, whatever. But dude, I'm just like, fuck it. You know what I mean? But,
I'm always like, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody. Nobody cares, Butch. Nobody cares.
Exactly. But you know what I'm saying? You got to do it, man. We got to do it because we're artists. You know what I mean? In our own right, and we have to fucking. This is part of the job, man.
And that's what's leading me into this. We're gonna close it up here because I don't want to take too much of your time. But what advice would you give someone who looks at someone like you, who is making a living, who is living in San Francisco, who is putting out amazing pieces of art? What advice would you give those people?
Don't do it, brother.
Don't do it. No, I didn't say what would you tell your child.
No.
What would you tell? What would you tell?
You know what, man? Don't do it unless you fucking love this shit. You know what I mean? And you gotta love it, man. And then that's not even enough because you have to. It's like what you were saying. Like you kind of like we're kind of getting out of it. You gotta find ways to love it even when you're tired of it already. You know what I mean? When you're done loving it, when the years go by, you know what I mean?
When you're in the crusty part of it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get through all that. And you know what, man? To me, the real G's, like let's say someone like Too Short or someone who was on top, then someone that hits the ground and then lifts himself back up, man. Those are the fools that I admire and respect. You know what I mean? Those are the stories that are great too. Also, so if you can do that, man, and you can, and it's sacrifice. If you're willing to do that, because that's what love. I mean, that's what I mean by love and not doing it. You be ready to sacrifice some things. You got to love it that much like you would love your own children or something like that, that you're going to sacrifice everything to find what you love. Because there's too many other people who are willing to do it and who love it. And so you got to be the person who loves it the most. Like you got to love comedy more than anybody.
Right.
I got to love art more than anybody. And I'm always trying to find new ways to be inspired, whether it's talking to comedians or watching some special or reading some book. Or finding it my own, pulling it out from inside me, man. You just gotta find ways to do it, man. And you gotta have grit, man. Diligence too.
Yes.
You gotta have grit behind that shit. You gotta be like Joey Diaz. You gotta be a soldier, dude. You better be ready to soldier. And you gotta get in it all the way. I mean, I know sometimes we have to work and we have to keep the bills going, but you gotta make all that extra work that you gotta do, even if it's not comedy related or art related. Related, you got to fund yourself, man. So all the money, even me, when I do make money, it all gets fucking put back into what I do. I'm buying more material. I'm buying equipment to get my shit better. I'm not buying new fucking threads or buying a new fucking car. It's all going back into like, how do I make this whole
Yeah.
thing? And it's got to be integrated into your life and everything else that you do. And you got to be in it. So you can get it eventually all the way. You can be immersed in it completely. And that's where you want to be.
Great.
And get respected by your peers too.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you were saying, you're respected by your peers. Joey Diaz fucking gives you a thumbs up, bro. You're the shit. Same thing with me. I got artists like that who, like New York motherfuckers, you know what I mean, who are in the, making fucking hundreds of thousands. And I'm not saying that that's not what makes them great, but, you know what I mean, who are in the limelight and who recognize, man. And that to me that's enough for me to keep me rocking and rolling, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Where, all right, man, where can we find you? Like, where do you want people to look for you at?
If you want to buy some shit, FranciscoFrancoStudios.com. Studios with an S. I'm going to be putting some new work, some paintings outside of the new Chachos, the parklet, not the new one, but the one downtown. There's a parklet out front. So I'm painting in the walls. We're going to install.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I seen it last time I was there.
I have that new mural that I finished right before the COVID on Mescal on San Fernando Street between Market and 2nd Street, right behind the Basilica. There, I have a giant mural. We're supposed to bail it. It never happened because of the Basilica. I literally finished it right when we were going to bail it and all that.
Right.
So, but you can still see that mural on that street. Also, look for us on Lex B. Frank for our podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. All right. I'll get all the information from you too and have it printed down below and everything. So.
All right, man.
All right, man. Hey, Frankie Franco, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you doing this podcast. I'm honored.
Man. We've been wanting to do this for years, bro, since
2013. Dude. Well, now we're getting things done thanks to the quarantine.
Right. Exactly, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure for me to be on here, man. Wish you all the best of luck and hit me up after. Let me know what's up.
I for sure will, my brother. Talk to you later.
All right. Take care, man. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Okay, man. All right, man.